Studios.
Welcome back to Laughing in the Dark, the podcast where I hang out in haunted places with comedians. This is another fixture in our Sunday Minisode series where I talk to you about your ghost stories. For this Minisode, I spoke to Jake and Wyatt. Jake and Wyatt have a podcast about the paranormal of their own called Superduperstitious, and they even featured me on one of their episodes last October. Jake and Wyatt both shared their own personal ghost story with me. Here's the call.
Sarah? Hello?
Hi, this is me.
Hey.
Well, we did it. We're here. So you guys are both on the call.
Yo.
Do you want to introduce yourselves to listeners?
Sure. I'm Jake.
And I'm Wyatt.
And we are the hosts of Superduperstitious. I'm the glasses one. You're the beard one.
He's beard and glasses right now.
I guess that's true.
Oh.
But yeah, we both have...
And we know each other before because we've actually spoken on your show before.
Correct. So we host a podcast about the paranormal where we kind of try and explore stuff from the science side of things. Back in October of 2018, we had a bunch of guests. We never did guests before. We did guests to talk about their own ghost stories, and we had you on as our very final guest of the month.
I didn't realize that was the final one.
Oh, yeah. We saved the best for last.
You closed that month out.
Well, I hope my story was good enough for the finale.
Oh, it was great.
It wasn't, but we were fine with it.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. So do you guys both have a ghost story? Is that how this works? Or were you guys both
We
present?
do.
Oh, I see. Okay. So who's going to go first?
I am Wyatt's emotional support animal, and he has a story. No, then I have one after he goes, but he'll go first, and then I'll fill in with some stuff I have too.
Yeah, mine is a series of very spooky things to have happened to me that I'm not sure if it was a ghost or not, but it was definitely creepy as hell. And yeah, very happy to share. And I think Jake's is spookier than mine, so he'll go second.
Oh, okay, smart. I like how you guys planned it out.
So should I just launch right in, or?
Yeah, just go for it. Let's hear it.
All right. So I grew up in McKnight District in Springfield, Massachusetts, which is an old sort of Victorian era neighborhood in that town. And when I was about 11, we moved into a house there that was built in 1872. The former owners basically remodeled this place. That was like sort of their hobby, I guess, very expensive hobby, but they'd buy like old homes and renovate them a bit and then sell them again. Basically, during the renovation, they found a letter dated from 1872 or 3, and addressed to the wife of the owner of the home at the time. And this is where all the creepiness begins, basically. So they're like, "Oh yeah, so here's the house, blah blah blah. Oh yeah, by the way, we found this letter in the walls."
In the walls.
In the
walls. And the letter itself read as, "I will not be reaching out to you again. I'll give you until the end of October to tell me where you have put my mother. A word to the wise is sufficient."
Whoa.
Now, hear that.
It's a little ominous.
When you're about 11 years old and you hear that, I mean, the answer is there are old lady bones in the walls, basically. Is pretty much the only way this goes forward.
I thought you were going to say where you've put my money. And I was like so excited. And then you said mother. And I was like, oh, hello.
You see a very, very different turn there.
Yeah, exactly. And it's good, too, because I would have burned that house to the ground.
Right.
Gotta get that money. They're like, I only meant $5, man. I don't know why you're going so crazy.
Right. Yeah. Back in the day, that was worth a lot more than it is now.
Yeah. That was like $1 million in 1872.
Like, there's $20 somewhere in here.
Yeah. 20 whole American dollars.
Can you imagine?
But yeah, so that creeped me out, but nothing really strange was happening yet.
Okay.
Cut to a few years later, I'm 13 or so, and this is where the weird experiences begin happening. So I'm in bed one night. The door to my bedroom is next to the door to the attic, which is next to the door to my parents' bedroom. And essentially, these are all near a front staircase. and then up the hall from a back staircase that goes down into the basement, sort of like an old service stair for these houses. At the time, in that day, you'd have sort of a family living in the nice part of the house and then help essentially living in the other part. By this point, all these areas have been merged into one continuous home.
Yeah.
All this to say, at the period in time, my mom would do laundry and she would sort of shove usually a laundry basket from the back staircase end of the hallway to their bedroom to like further process or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And this evening, I'm lying in bed just waiting to fall asleep. It's probably like 9:30 or so. And I'm hearing from that far end of the hallway coming towards my door the sound of what sounds like a hamper full of laundry getting shoved sort of just like up the hall towards the door really slow. And it just weirded me out because like I know my mom would do laundry, but she would never push the laundry basket all weird like that. And also it's like 9:30. This is totally strange. So it finally stops just outside, but sounds like my door. And I'm like, Mom, what's going on? No response. I look out in the hall. Nothing's there. My parents are actually asleep. So that was weird. I just log it away. Another time, I'm up in the attic. This all builds up to a creepy reveal. Don't worry.
But when you walked out, was the laundry basket next to your door?
There was nothing in the hall at all, in fact.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was yes, indeed. There was a very loud, audible noise moving down the hall, sounding like something being dragged or scraped along the floor. Weird shuffling. A weird shuffle, and then nothing's there. It creeped me out, but I kind of just moved on from it. It happened one time. At another point, I'm up in the attic, just sort of hanging around, I guess. Like
Wyatt was an only child, so he entertained himself in strange ways.
Yeah.
Oh, you were an
only
child? You
never ate small animals in your attic? Sorry?
I did, but
yeah.
I mean, look at what I do.
See, it works for everybody.
Yeah. I turned out
But
great.
yeah, I was up there just just hanging out, because weird, and I can hear all of a sudden very, very intense piano being played, sort of like in the distance. It sounds like far away or like in the next house over or something, but someone's just really going to town on like a full piano, like really getting after it. And
like, was it
excited me because
being played, or was it like someone was like pounding their fists on a piano kind of a deal?
Oh, no, just very beautifully,
Cool.
not like with a rage, but just like really getting after it, a really complex sounding kind of harmony.
Cool.
And I'm like, wow, someone is just going after it. And I played piano as well. And so I was like, who on the street other than myself is playing piano? I got to figure this out.
At the time, no one in Massachusetts played piano except Wyatt.
No, they didn't even know what pianos were.
No, you were the child.
And so I ran
prodigy.
outside.
You were, like eating little animals and just like going to town on the piano.
Exactly. I was on a diet of strictly just rats, and attic rats is what we call them, or AR, and piano playing, which kept me alive. And allowed me to grow to my full height of 3 feet tall.
A lot of minor keys.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We just snapped off all the white ones.
Yeah. Just only creepy. Love it.
Exactly. So anyway, I ran outside.
I do have to jump in and say that if it's only the black keys, it would be a pentatonic scale, which would be actually quite nice sounding.
Oh, you're right.
Anyway, continue.
Excuse me, Jay. But yeah, we went outside. And, or we went outside. Me and my imaginary friends, obviously. No, I run outside to hear if I can see if this piano's coming from a house nearby. I don't hear it anywhere. I go upstairs because maybe it's on a second floor or something. I don't know why I'm thinking this is going to work better. Stick my head out a window, can't hear it anywhere. Because again, it sounds like it's in the distance and I'm hearing it from inside the attic. So I go back up to see if I can't hear it again from the attic. And sure enough, there it is again, just on the edge of my hearing. So very strange, but these are just one-off weird events that I book away in my head for later. Cut to years later, I'm home from college just visiting my folks, and I get into a conversation with my mom about just life in the universe, and I bring up asking if anything weird ever happened in the house for her. And wouldn't you know it, she corroborated both events, but on separate occasions. She not only heard the weird dragging sound, she heard it from the other end of the hall, moving in the same direction, but on a separate occasion from when I'd heard it myself.
Weird.
And my hearing is pretty good. And, when I was younger, probably even better. And so I figured my ability to hear the piano was based on me just having really acute hearing. But wouldn't you know it, she, on one occasion, also heard the same kind of piano being played in the attic. And her hearing, it's better now because they stuffed Legos in her ears, basically. She's got like fake bones that work better than they did before. It's a modern miracle. But like at the time, her hearing was pretty terrible. But she even could hear this strange, intense piano being played. So those two things together really creeped me out.
So she heard it when she was in the attic, or she heard it coming from the attic?
She heard it when she was in the attic itself.
And it sounded like it was like in the distance, though.
Exactly. Very faint, but very like engaged.
Wow.
And so based on this, we immediately go down to like the town records and look up everything we can on the house.
What you
it
did?
Turns out it was,
I feel like that's something they do in movies that like you never hear about people actually doing. And I love that you did it.
Yes, no, we got right on it. We were like, we have to figure this out.
That's not like, oh my God. I'm sorry. I don't mean to like interrupt you. But when I saw a ghost in my childhood home, I had like 2 experiences. I talked about it on your guys' show, Superduperstitious.
Yes, indeed.
And I tried to tell my mom, I was like, let's go to the library. We got to look this up. And I was like,
right.
We got to go to the like fake search engine that they use in horror movies. That's
right.
like
we have to ask Jeeves about this.
It's not even Ask Jeeves. It's like they use like a fake, that's my favorite. But I was like, we got to get down there.
She's
and
like,
my mom
what are you doing
was
not
like,
eating rats right now?
No. Yeah. She was like, go back to the attic. You have piano lessons. Goodbye.
Right.
But yeah, that's awesome. You guys went. Okay. So what happened?
So we get down there, we look up all these articles. And by the way, articles from like the late 1800s are fucking crazy. They talk about local deaths in the most gratuitous detail. There was like a vat of like whiskey or something exploded and like melted a few dudes basically. And they were like, isn't that crazy? Anyway, here's what's in the weather for tomorrow.
They're the best. I wish they would bring back that candid, because now we're so like, I've read articles about like in some of my episodes, I'll like look into people who have died on like a property or something. And then, I've seen a couple of those where they'll just like go into graphic detail about how someone died on their like farm.
There's no warning either. They're like, it was a sunny day and then his head freaking exploded, guys. Isn't that so cool?
I know.
He was the father of 6. It's fine. But anyway, we're down there. We look up that the house was owned by John Barry, who was part of the Barney and Barry ice skate team. Basically, they invented a kind of ice skate that is now probably, stored in like museums. But at the time, it was very popular.
Yeah.
And that's how he had enough money to even afford a house like this, because at the time there were only a few built in that neighborhood. He, it turns out, died in the home. They found him in the sort of front entryway, having, they think, fallen over the banister, which is right near the entry to the attic. But it still doesn't really explain why the attic is it's sort of like a flip, right? Normally the basement, I think, is a creepier spot in the home. But the attic is still very spooky, and not much has happened since. But at the same time, my mom and I have both sort of tried to respectfully turn away from the spookier parts of the home, just to sort of see if we can't be like, hey guys, we're all happy to be here. You know what I mean? Like, don't get worse than it was. But that's basically it. That's
you
my
never
story.
figured out where the letter in the wall came from, right?
No, indeed. The person who signed it in a very like, monogram kind of style. It was just like their initials or something like this. It was Cher. Cher when she was only 200 years old.
A couple questions.
Please.
One, so your mom still lives there?
Yes.
And she hasn't had any other paranormal experiences?
She has actually had one other. I forgot. I'm glad you asked that. She swears to this day, if you ask her about it, which I hope you do.
I have her slated for after you guys.
Oh, perfect. When she was sitting up in bed one evening, so their bed faces the wall that their bed is facing is the wall on the outside of the staircase going up into the attic, if that puts it into your, kind of frames it out for you there. She's just facing ahead after reading a book for a little bit. She swears she saw an orb. I don't really go in for orbs, but she apparently saw one fly from that wall towards her face and over her head, presumably into the wall above her. And pretty crazy. But other than that, nothing else. And she's not the kind of person to be like, oh, I saw more spirits today, son.
Yeah.
But I wish she was, right? Gee.
Right.
Address you as son.
Yeah, my boy.
Well, and then the other thing that's interesting is this guy fell over a banister. That's how he died.
Right.
I mean, that's...
So they say.
Right. Like, that's a weird way to die. Like, a lot of
It's a
people
weird way to
jump
die.
off a building that's a little too short and don't die. Like, trying to commit
Right.
suicide. You know what I mean?
Right.
So to fall off a banister
exactly.
and that's your demise, that's a really weird way to die.
Isn't it, though?
Yeah,
I know. It
so
seems
it seems
very
like there's like some
strange.
drama and maybe some foul play, maybe on both sides. Like maybe he just
Right.
stole someone's mom, and then that person was like, "Fuck you, man."
Give her back.
Yeah,
Right?
I don't know where my mom is.
Maybe the mom made a break for it.
The mom, or I have no. Like that's so weird. What was it? What are you doing with my mom?
It was like, tell me where you have put my mother. I'll give you until the end of October. Word to the wise is sufficient. So it was kind of like, clearly there was already something going on. And we figured, as far as just like non-creepy explanations, it could be that they put the mother in some sort of, home or some sort of care, something like this.
Or maybe it's the mother's ashes.
Oh, yeah. True.
Because that's like almost talking about her like she's an object. Like, where have you put my mother?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. Yeah, they're like, up our nose.
No.
Just kidding.
I mean, but then again, why would someone just steal ashes?
I know. It's such a strange thing. And it's clearly there was enough tension there that the person writing the letter was done being patient. Like this had gone on for long enough, and they were just like, listen, you tell me now or shit's gonna get real.
Like I'm gonna make it look like you just fell off the banister.
Yeah. You wouldn't want to have another banner accident, would you? Or banister accident.
Yeah, exactly. Like honestly, like doesn't that seem like I put those two together for sure?
Yeah, it's true.
And it's not like they didn't do a lot of investigating back in the day either.
Oh, totally. No, exactly. They're like, doesn't seem like the killer's here now, so I guess you're free.
Goodbye.
Or whatever. We'll never solve it.
Yeah, or people just go missing and they're like, I don't know. Sometimes people are just gone.
Yeah, and it must have just been taken away. That's fine. We got to deal with this guy whose head exploded because whiskey got all over him and it was really hot or something. So.
Oh my God, I can't believe you just said that. Because my call from yesterday, and for listeners, this will be the call from last week. She talked about someone who, quote, spontaneously combusted, but he also drank a lot of whiskey and smoked a lot of cigarettes.
Oh,
but that's funny that you just said that. That's so weird. Like the common thread.
Did I not mention I'm a ghost myself as well?
Oh my God, this is perfect.
That's how I went.
You're like, wait till you play this recording backwards. It's gonna blow your mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Somehow it just plays like it all of some kind of like record or something.
Yeah,
it's that piano music.
Yeah,
right.
What if we sent this to my producer and he texted me and was like, "Do you want this weird, faint, but like very technical piano music in the background?"
Yeah, exactly.
That would be so
pretty
rad.
crazy, actually.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
For the record, we're recording this from a lab prep room, so if you do hear piano, that's really, really weird.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, you're in a laboratory prep room?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. We're recording from campus today.
What do you mean by lab?
It's a teaching lab right next to where we are that teach like intro bio kind of classes.
Oh, it's like a classroom laboratory. I work in a laboratory.
Exactly,
I draw blood. So first,
different kind of lab.
Wait, you're in a lab? When are you going to be
you
getting
make
patients?
some of your calls while Don't you make some of your calls while you're drawing blood?
Yeah.
Usually I do, yeah.
Usually.
Yeah, it's never a violation of HIPAA at all. I'm just like, whisper your name and date of birth.
Exactly. Right. Into the mic if you could, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we're testing for HIV? Gross.
Right. HIV is gross. You're pretty gross for having HIV.
Oh, you're testing for lupus?
Obviously what you say.
Sucks. Okay,
Yeah.
well, anyway, we have a ghost story coming in. Yeah.
Oh my God. There you go. But yeah, so that's my tale.
Okay, well, I loved it.
Woo!
I have a tale. It is a little different because so far in my life, I have not had any personal ghost experiences that I'm aware of. There may be some related to the one I'm going to tell, but this is my sister's tale.
You experienced this indirectly, though, in a way.
I did. And there's parts of this that I did play into.
Although, so that's how it's a little different, is that it's your sister's?
Yes.
For a second, I thought it'd be really funny if you said, this one's a little different because it's true. I was like,
by the way, fucking why? You're so sad.
Yeah. That would be awesome.
So this really all began for my sister the year after The Matrix came out, 2000, and we lived upstairs in there's like a second part of our house. My parents first bought this house in the 80s after they got married, and it was just kind of like a ranch, and then they had us. We shared a bedroom downstairs, like right near theirs, and then in 94, I think, they added on to the house. And so that's where the living room is now. And then upstairs above the living room, directly overhead above the living room, are our 2 bedrooms and a bathroom and like a little landing area between the 3 rooms. So this is the time when we were living in that part of the house. And my bedroom was near my sister's. And we would usually have our doors kind of open to crack while we were sleeping. And I had like stuff on the back of my doorknob, so that if I were to close my door, suddenly like everything on the doorknob would kind of swing and hit the door and make a loud kind of hollow sound against the door.
Mm-hmm.
So one morning, my sister woke up before me, and she heard, like she felt this very strong sense that there was someone right outside her door. She didn't see anybody, but she could just feel like someone was there.
Oh yeah,
I thought maybe, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe I was awake already. I was up and just kind of, I guess, standing outside of her door silently.
But you do.
Sometimes, yeah. But she then heard that sound. Like, yeah. She then heard that sound like my door had like suddenly had all that stuff slam against it, and kind of scared her. But then she thought, okay, well, Jake's up. So then she went out in the hallway, and there was no like I was still asleep, and the door was hadn't moved or anything, and it was totally just. Yeah, I wasn't doing it, and this is how it happened anyway. And she thought, okay, maybe it's the dog. So she looked around. The dog wasn't up there, and so she thought, okay, whatever, kind of weird. Went downstairs, started having breakfast and stuff. No one else was up yet, and she then heard the sound again upstairs, and looked up the stairs, thinking, okay, maybe Jake's actually up now, and I still wasn't, and then saw the dog come from out of my parents' bedroom on the opposite end of the house on the same floor she was on.
So something is up there making this weird noise.
Something else was up there, and apparently in my bedroom, which is great.
Oh, God.
So that kind of freaked her out. She mentioned it to my mom. My mom was like, huh. And that was kind of that. Fast forward to this one specific summer where everything really happened. This is when everything really took off. Summer of 2006. She just finished her first year of college, and she came home. I think it was actually her first night home for the summer. And while she was sleeping, her bed, or was trying to sleep, and her bed started shaking.
Oh, God.
Which kind of freaked her out. Yeah. And she's like, that's weird. So then in the morning, she like kind of mentioned to my mom, like, oh, my bed was kind of like shaking last night. It's kind of weird. And my mom's response was, explain the shaking. And she's like, wait, what? So she did. And my mom, she told her what kind of happened. Like it started out of nowhere, and then it stopped. And my mom was like,
yeah.
Like light shaking? Like there was like a small earthquake outside or something?
Yes. So she thought maybe it was an earthquake, but this all happened in central Maine, like kind of Norridgewock, Maine. It's not the middle of nowhere, but you can see it from there.
I see. Okay.
Maine joke.
there aren't really earthquakes there. Sometimes like a large truck would drive by on the roadside. It might kind of make that side of the house shake a little bit.
It was an earthquake drove by again.
So she kind of dismissed it, but then when she mentioned it to my mom was like, well, explain what the shaking was like. And so I don't remember if it was then or later that my mom kind of then indicated that she also had this happening to her.
For years, too.
For years, but we'll get there.
Yeah, sorry.
So later on that summer, my sister had a sleepover with some of her friends, like her old high school friends. They're going to see each other for the first time, so we thought we'd have like a kind of throwback sleepover like you used to do when you're little. And they all decided to sleep in the basement. Now, it's a mostly finished basement, not just like a dingy, just
gross
cement
cellar
floor or something.
Yeah.
That was just an area where there happened to be a lot of room for everyone, so they all slept down there.
Yeah.
And in the morning, one of Kayla's friends had to leave early, and so she did that and had to go to work. And later on, she mentioned to my sister, like, hey.
Do you hear that beeping?
Beeping?
Beeping.
You guys don't hear the beeping?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope.
It only happened twice, so maybe it'll go away. Sorry, keep going.
Okay. Sorry, the beeping's in your head.
Oh, good. Okay.
I do try to,
thank God. As long as the listeners
out
don't
all my
hear
swears.
it.
What?
Yeah, right. I just said I do try to bleep out all my swears actively, but
oh yeah,
swearing.
that's not a concern on my show. Don't worry.
Oh, I know.
So Kayla, my sister's friend, left early in the morning, and then later on said to her, "Dude, you have a ghost." And my sister was like, "Why do you say that?" She's like, "Well, I woke up early this morning and I felt like this kind of cold, like breeze on me, and like this is the basement. There's no like breeze coming in the basement, hopefully underground." And she woke up and looked, and in the doorway of the room they were in, there was just this like girl standing there, like about their age, with dark hair, and just kind of looking at her, and then walked away. And my sister was like, "All right, that's cool, fun story, great." She still just kind of chalked a lot of the stuff up as just weird coincidences, or just like, one-off occurrences. Over the course of the summer, she would start hearing more things. Like if she was home alone downstairs in the living room, she would hear creaking upstairs, like someone was walking around in her bedroom while there was no one else in the house. The bed shaking got harder and harder as time went on. She started feeling she was like seeing stuff around, like out of the corner of her eyes, like during the day and stuff. And she'd also like feel a presence behind her, or even almost the sound of like someone moving, like the kind of just like the clothing sound of someone who's just
right, like rustling.
Rustling, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And also there's like some different like mirror decorations on the walls, and sometimes she thinks she saw someone's reflection in one of the mirrors or something.
Right. Absolutely not. That would freak the shit out of me.
Yeah, right. Holy crap.
In particular, she had looked out into the living room, and based on how the living room was oriented at the time, there was a love seat facing the TV. You couldn't see the love seat from the other room, but she could see the reflection of the love seat in the TV, and saw someone sitting in the love seat.
Fuck that.
Yeah, no.
And she thought it was me, but then when my mom came out, she's like, "Dick's not out there. He's downstairs playing video games." And she called my name, and I popped up, and yeah, I was downstairs.
Oh, so she saw a male figure.
She just saw, she couldn't see because the reflection in the TV, so it was kind of opaque and not very
just
clear.
Like
a person
figure
sitting
in general.
there.
A figure, yeah.
Who she assumed was me.
Yeah.
Or maybe she thinks I look like a woman. I don't know. It's hard to say. But
you are quite pretty.
Thank you. At another point later on, my mom's sisters, she has two sisters, so our aunts had come over, and one of my aunts looked out in the living room. There's no one there. And she said, "I see you." And I was like, "What did you say?" She's like, "Oh, there's the girl who's in your living room." Like, there's no one there. She's like, "No, but she's there. Maybe you can't see her, but she's there."
Fuck that.
And then my other aunt said, "You can feel there's definitely a presence of like someone." They're both people who are into that kind of stuff, but we're still kind of, without having been told about this in advance, sort of confirming similar experiences my sister and mom had had.
Mm-hmm.
Finally, it all came down to this one particular night where my sister had this boyfriend who sucked. His name was Chad. He was very much a Chad.
Of course, yeah.
So, and he was visiting for the weekend from, he lived in New Jersey and was coming up to visit for the weekend. She would tell him over the course of the summer about these experiences she was having and how scary they were and how scared she was. And he's like, "Oh, you're full of it. Like, there's nothing going on."
He just chatted them off.
Exactly.
Right.
And so finally he was coming to stay over, and he my parents, like, we never really liked Chad. Like, we just never cared for Chad at all. And
The only way to handle it.
Yeah, if his name was Chad, what else could we do?
Immediately, you're like, no.
Yeah.
This won't work.
So they didn't let them share a bedroom when he visited. He had to sleep downstairs in the basement, which again, finished basement. And that was where all the girls had slept. And I slept during that sleepover earlier in the summer. Not a bad place to stay.
Yeah.
The TV down there. He, I guess, had tinnitus, so he would sleep with the TV on to just kind of like get rid of the ringing in his ears. So she would stay up with him late, and then when it was time to go to bed, she would leave and go upstairs, and he would stay down there. And one night she left to go upstairs, and he was still down there. She thought that everyone might still be upstairs. When she got upstairs, all the lights were out. Everyone was asleep. And she's like, okay, that's cool. So she had to walk across the dining room from the basement stairs to get to the stairs going up to our bedrooms. And as she walked, she felt for sure, like she felt the presence of someone.
She thought someone was up.
She thought that my mom was up there waiting for her. And there was someone just in the dark there waiting, and there was no one there. So she just kind of booked it across the room, and when she got to the base of the stairs, she heard someone just whisper to her. Yeah. And so she was like, all right. And she couldn't tell if it was like a female voice that was whispering. And so she looked around. There's no one there. So she's like, I'm out of here. She ran up the stairs, and she could feel the presence of something chasing her up the stairs.
She could like even hear it, I think.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So
she basically ran and jumped into her bed and was just really freaked out. She had kind of a sort of mesh canopy thing over her bed at the time, just like decorative sort of thing. And so she had that closed up. So it kind of made the dark room also a little bit more obscured as well. Throughout the course of the night, she could feel and hear the sound of someone like pacing back and forth in her room, just outside of her line of view. And she had a stereo across the room, like kind of her bed was facing towards it. It was like the sort of LED display of the time. And every once in a while, she would see a shadow block out the LED display.
Oh, God.
And then go away again. So she was just terrified. So then finally, once that happened, she just buried herself in blankets and like shut her eyes. And then the bed started shaking. And then she just kept her eyes tight shut. Somehow ended up eventually falling asleep. And in the morning, she got up and went downstairs.
I know, right?
I don't know. I mean, I've heard a lot of stories.
I would never sleep again.
No, exactly. I've heard a lot of stories. People have these awful things happen to them and manage to like fall asleep in them anyway. I don't know.
I know.
Guess after a certain point,
you're like, how?
Right.
But also, I don't have the type of, like, a lot of people, like your sister, will hide under covers. I can't do that. I have to, like, see what's around. Like, it's the same with, like, drawing blood, actually. This is interesting because it's really similar. People always have to look away when you go to poke them. And they're always like, oh, I'm fine. I just can't watch the poke. And I've always been the opposite. When I was a kid, I always had to watch a poke so that I knew exactly when it was going to happen.
Oh,
yeah. So because I didn't like the surprise of it. So for me, if I saw something was in my room, the last thing I'd want to do is like take away one of my senses,
Yeah, right.
But I think
for me, I'd go for like lights on at that point. I wanted to see everything that's happening.
Same thing. Lights on. But I'm like, I want to face it, not because I'm super brave, like I'm scared as shit, but because I want to know what's happening. I don't want to be like taken unawares.
Caught off guard.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah. You don't want to be in the dark, so to speak.
No, right, exactly.
And if you are, you want to at least be laughing. Right.
Right. Exactly. On brand.
I'm so sorry.
It's fine.
No, very on brand.
So,
and that'll do in the morning for the call today.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough.
We'll see you next time.
So when
theme music.
Yeah, exactly.
She went downstairs to wake up Chad, and he was also just in a ball of blankets, like on the mattress he was sleeping on in the basement, which was not typical for him. She woke him up, and he looked pretty bedraggled. I think he hadn't slept very much. He's like, "Kill, your house is haunted."
Oh no!
And she's like, "What?" And so, like, he said that
she was like,
had
"I've
been asleep.
fucking telling you that for like
right, exactly.
So he said he had been asleep and then woke up because he felt something cold like go through his body, and then once he woke up, like he just felt like someone was there watching him, and it wouldn't go away, and he just couldn't get rid of it. And so He was supposed to stay, I think, for another night, and then he just bailed.
He actually
drove back home.
bailed.
Yeah. And so that was the worst it ever got. So after that, she told my mom about it, and she wouldn't want to sleep another night in the house with it like it was. So they ended up doing the whole sage thing throughout the entire house.
And I believe they burned the house to the ground as well.
They did, actually. They used the sage to start the fire that burned it. No.
Oh.
No, my parents still lived there. After that,
I thought you were serious. I was like, holy shit.
It did get rid of the ghost. No, it was.
Now there's a house ghost.
Yes. So after that, things did seem to kind of stop for the most part.
So it was like the crescendo, and then it was just.
Yes.
Right.
They're like, get Chad the fuck out of here. And then Chad left.
Oh my God. And everything kind of got better from there for everybody.
Naturally.
Except for Chad.
Wow. Makes sense.
That's awesome. Interestingly, now it's kind of related to that, Chad did introduce Kayla to her now husband. So
funny.
It kind of worked out for everybody. Again, except Chad.
Exactly. Where is Chad now? Yeah. Do we know?
We talked about that. He's doing something somewhere. He is alive.
I think he is wakeboarding back on the shores of New Jersey, and he makes frequent trips to Atlantic City.
Chad, if you're listening, if you could just email us, we just want to see how you felt about this experience.
Yeah, that would be very interesting, actually.
I want to hear Chad's reaction to this. Like, first of all, fuck that guy.
From a Chad's eye view.
From a Chad's eye view.
Yeah, Chad's eye view. Exactly.
Hanging with Chad.
Okay. So after that, it kind of got better. My sister never experienced that stuff again. When we talk about it and when we then visit my parents, she still has to sleep in that same bedroom and still kind of gets a little creeped out, but it's still like nothing ever happens. My mom said she did have, I think, a little bit more bed shaking experience, but then it kind of dissipated. But my sister asked, was it like the same time that I was experiencing it? And she initially had said, oh yeah, it was just like when you did, and that was it. But then she revealed later that it actually had been happening for years prior, but then finally started to get worse and worse once Kayla was a teenager up until that fateful summer in 2006. And sometimes my mom would experience it accompanied with like a feeling of pressure on her chest as well, which is kind of more of a sleep paralysis thing.
Yeah.
But just some weird goings on that I am thankful not to have experienced myself, because goddamn.
Right.
Thanks so much for your call, guys. It was great talking to you again. Be sure to check out Jake and Wyatt's podcast, Superduperstitious. Do you have a ghost story that you want to tell on Laughing in the Dark? Email us at litdarkpodcast@gmail.com or write to us in our Contact Us form on our website, litdarkpodcast.com. We may want to feature you on the show. Thanks so much for listening.
Studios.